Bruce Lee died with a letter in his pocket. The person it was written to still hasn't read it. Los Angeles, July 18th, 1973, late afternoon. Bruce Lee sits alone in his study at his Bel Air home. The room is quiet except for the distant sound of Brandon and Shannon playing in the backyard. Linda is in the kitchen preparing dinner. The house smells like jasmine tea and the faint scent of incense Bruce burns when he meditates. But Bruce isn't meditating. He's staring at a blank piece of paper on his desk, a pen in his hand, his fingers tight around it. Too tight, the way someone holds something when they're trying to control emotion, when they're trying to keep something inside from spilling out. Bruce has been sitting here for 20 minutes. The paper's still blank. The pen hasn't touched it yet. Because once he starts writing, he has to face what he's been avoiding for weeks. The feeling he can't shake. The knowledge he can't explain. The certainty that something is ending. He doesn't know he's going to die in 2 days. Not consciously, not logically, but somewhere deeper, in a place beyond thought, beyond reason. His body knows, his spirit knows. Something is preparing to leave, and it's creating this urgency, this need to say things he's never said, to write things he's never written, to finish something before he runs out of time. Bruce puts pen to paper. His handwriting is clean, precise, controlled, years of discipline showing even in the simple act of forming letters. He writes, "To whoever finds this," he pauses, crosses it out, too formal, too distant. This isn't a legal document. What is this? A confession? A goodbye? An explanation? Bruce doesn't know. He just knows he has to write it. He starts again. "I don't know who will read this. Maybe no one. Maybe everyone. Maybe it doesn't matter. I'm writing this because I need to say things I've never said. To admit things I've never admitted. Not to students, not to fans, not to interviewers who ask the same questions and expect the same answers. This is the truth, the real truth, the truth I hide because the world wants a legend, not a man." Bruce stops, reads what he wrote. His hand is shaking slightly, not from weakness, from emotion, from the act of removing the armor he's worn for so long. The armor of Bruce Lee, the invincible, the untouchable, the master, the legend. He continues, "I'm afraid. I've been afraid my entire life. Not of fighting, not of losing, not of dying. I'm afraid of not mattering, of living a life that looks impressive but means nothing, of being famous for punching and kicking while the things I actually care about get ignored. I'm afraid that when I die, people will remember the movies and forget the man, remember the legend and forget the truth." The words flow now, faster, like something breaking open, like water through a crack in a dam. Bruce writes for 10 minutes without stopping, the pen moving across the page, his thoughts becoming visible, his hidden self emerging. People think I'm confident, arrogant even. They think I believe I'm the best, that I never doubt myself, that I wake up every morning knowing I'm Bruce Lee and that's enough. But the truth is, I doubt myself every single day. Every morning I look in the mirror and see someone pretending, someone playing a role, someone who built an image so convincing that even he started to believe it sometimes. But underneath, I'm still the kid from Hong Kong who got beat up by street gangs. Still the immigrant who doesn't belong anywhere. Still the man who's too Chinese for America and too American for China. Still searching for a place to fit. Still trying to prove I deserve to exist. Bruce pauses, wipes his eyes. He didn't realize he was crying. The tears came without permission, without warning. Just there, on his face, on the paper, blurring the ink slightly. He keeps writing, "I've accomplished things I'm proud of. The films, the philosophy, the students I've taught. But my proudest moments aren't the ones the world celebrates. They're the quiet ones, the private ones, the moments no one filmed, no one photographed, no one wrote about. Holding Linda's hand in the hospital when Brandon was born. That moment when they put him in my arms and I realized I was responsible for another human life, that I had created something more important than any film, any fight, any philosophy, a person, an actual person who would carry forward after I'm gone." Watching Shannon sleep, her little chest rising and falling, so peaceful, so innocent, so trusting that the world is safe because Daddy is here. That trust terrifies me, because I can't always be here. I can't always protect her. I can't always make the world safe. But she doesn't know that yet. She thinks I'm invincible, and I let her think it, because breaking that illusion would break her. But someday she'll learn. Someday she'll discover that Daddy isn't invincible, and I let her think it, because breaking that illusion would break her. But someday she'll learn. Someday she'll discover that Daddy isn't invincible, that Daddy is just a man, fragile, mortal, temporary, and that will hurt her, and I won't be able to fix it. Teaching Dan Ino Santo. Watching him grow from student to equal to superior, that progression filled me with more pride than any achievement of my own, because it proved that teaching works, that passing knowledge forward creates something immortal. Dan will teach others, those others will teach more. The lineage continues. Long after I'm gone, the ideas survive. That matters more than any trophy. The time I helped that woman in the alley, got stabbed for it. Everyone asks about the scar. I lie, say it was a training accident, but the truth is, I chose to step into danger for a stranger, and that choice, that moment when I decided her life mattered more than my safety, that was the most important fight I ever had. Not against a master, not in a tournament, in a dark alley, against men with knives, for someone I didn't know. That's when martial arts meant something real. Bruce stops writing, flexes his hand. It's cramping from gripping the pen so tight. He looks at what he's written. 3 pages. Single-spaced, dense with emotion, with truth, with things he's never said out loud. He asks himself, who is this for? Why am I writing this? But what Bruce wrote next revealed the real reason he couldn't finish the letter. I'm writing this because I need to tell the truth to someone. Even if that someone is just myself. Even if no one ever reads it. I need to admit that Bruce Lee the legend is exhausting. That maintaining the image takes more energy than any physical training. That pretending to be fearless when you're terrified is the hardest performance I've ever given. I'm writing this because I want whoever reads it to know I'm human. I bleed, I cry, I doubt, I fail, I get scared, I make mistakes, I hurt people I love, I disappoint myself, I fall short of who I want to be. Every single day, I fall short. But I keep trying. That's the only thing I do consistently well. I keep trying. When I fail, I try again. When I'm scared, I try anyway. When I want to quit, I find one more reason to continue. Not because I'm strong, because I'm stubborn, because giving up would hurt worse than continuing. I want my children to know this. When they're old enough to understand, when they face their own fears and failures and doubts, I want them to know, Dad felt it too. Dad struggled too. Dad wasn't born fearless. He learned to act despite fear, and they can too. Not because they're Bruce Lee's kids, because they're human, and humans have this incredible capacity to keep going even when everything says stop. I want Linda to know. You saved me. Before you, I was a fighter looking for fights. After you, I became a man looking for meaning. You gave me that. You gave me family, purpose, love, real love. Not the fan worship, not the celebrity infatuation. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. The kind that sees all your flaws and chooses you anyway. Thank you for that. Thank you for seeing me when everyone else just saw the image. I want my students to know I'm not a master. I'm a fellow student. I've been training longer. I've discovered some things, but I'm still learning, still growing, still figuring it out. The moment you think you're a master, you stop learning. I never want to stop learning, so I'll never be a master. I'll always be a student. That's the secret. Stay a student forever. I want the world to know the Bruce Lee you see in movies is a character, a performance, an exaggeration of certain qualities. The real Bruce Lee is quieter, more uncertain, more human. He's trying his best, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing, always trying. That's the man I am, not the legend. The man. Bruce stops again, reads everything he's written, 5 pages now. The most honest thing he's ever written. No performance, no image, no legend, just truth. But now comes the hard part. What does he do with it? He can't send it to anyone. It's not addressed to a specific person, it's to everyone and no one. His children aren't old enough to understand. Linda doesn't need this burden. His students would lose faith if they saw their teacher this vulnerable. The world isn't ready for Bruce Lee the uncertain. They want Bruce Lee the invincible. So this letter exists in limbo, written but unsent, true but unshared, a confession with no confessor, a message with no recipient. Bruce folds the letter carefully, puts it in an envelope, doesn't seal it, doesn't address it, just places it in his jacket pocket, the jacket he's wearing tomorrow when he flies to Hong Kong, the jacket he'll be wearing when he dies. He doesn't know that yet. doesn't know this letter will be found in his pocket, doesn't know it will create more questions than answers, doesn't know that 50 years later people will still be trying to understand what he meant, who it was for, why he never sent it. Bruce stands up, walks to the window, looks out at his backyard. Brandon and Shannon still playing, Linda visible through the kitchen window, his family, his real achievement, his actual legacy. He thinks maybe the letter doesn't need to be sent, maybe writing it was enough, maybe admitting the truth to himself is the point, maybe the audience doesn't matter, the honesty does. He leaves the letter in his pocket, goes outside, plays with his children, kisses his wife, lives his last day like any other day. Not knowing it's his last, not knowing the letter will outlive him. July 20th, 1973. Bruce Lee dies. The letter is found in his jacket pocket, folded, unsealed, unaddressed. 5 pages of handwritten truth. Linda reads it first, alone, in their bedroom. While the world mourns Bruce Lee the legend, she mourns Bruce Lee the man who wrote this letter, the man who was scared and uncertain and human. Her husband, not the icon, the person. She cries for hours, not because Bruce died, because he died carrying this burden alone, this need to be invincible, this pressure to be the legend instead of the man. She wishes he'd shown her this letter, wishes he'd let her carry some of the weight, wishes he'd known he didn't have to be Bruce Lee all the time. He could just be Bruce, her husband, her love, her equal. Linda makes a decision. She won't publish the letter, won't share it with the world. Not yet. Maybe not ever, because Bruce didn't send it. He wrote it but kept it private. That means something. That means he wanted the truth acknowledged but not broadcast, wanted to admit it to himself without admitting it to everyone. So Linda keeps the letter locked in a safe, along with other private things, photos, notes, memories, things that belong to the family, not to the fans, not to history, to them. Years pass. The letter stays hidden. A secret, a ghost. People know it exists. Linda mentioned it once in an interview. Bruce wrote something before he died. Very personal, very honest. I'm not ready to share it. That's all she said. But it was enough. The legend grows. What did Bruce write? Who was it for? What secrets did it contain? Speculation runs wild. Some say it was a suicide note, that Bruce knew he was going to die, that the letter explains why. Others say it was a confession, that Bruce was involved in something dangerous, that he was running from something. Others say it was a love letter to Linda, to his children, to the world. None of them are right, but none of them are completely wrong either. The letter is all of those things and none of them. It's Bruce Lee removing his armor, showing his scars, admitting he's human. That's the secret. That's what he wrote. That's what the world isn't ready to hear. Brandon grows up knowing the letter exists, asks his mother about it when he's 18. Can I read it? Linda hesitates. Why? Because I want to know who Dad really was, not the legend, the person. Linda gets the letter, gives it to Brandon, watches him read it, watches his face change, watches understanding dawn, watches him cry. Not sad tears, relief tears, the tears of someone who's been carrying a burden they didn't know they had, and suddenly it's lifted. He was scared too, Brandon whispers. He doubted himself too. He felt like he didn't belong to. Yes, Linda says. I thought I was weak for feeling those things. I thought it meant I wasn't like him, that I was disappointing him. You are like him, Linda says, more than you know. Not the image, the person, the struggle, the trying, the refusing to quit even when you're terrified. That's what made your father special, not the fearlessness, the courage to act despite fear. Brandon reads the letter 3 more times that night, absorbs it, integrates it, understands his father in a way he never could before. Not as Bruce Lee the icon, as Bruce Lee the man, scared, uncertain, trying anyway. That letter changes Brandon's life, gives him permission to be imperfect, to be scared, to struggle, to be human, and still be worthy, still be enough, still be his father's son. When Brandon dies in 1993, Linda rereads the letter, sees parallels, father and son, both dying young, both leaving behind questions, both hiding vulnerability behind performance, both human pretending to be invincible. She makes another decision. Still won't publish the letter, but she'll tell Shannon about it. When Shannon is ready. When Shannon is old enough to understand. to carry the weight, to keep the secret or share it. Her choice. Shannon reads the letter at 25, has the same reaction Brandon had. Relief, understanding, permission. Her father wasn't invincible. He was scared, and he kept going anyway. That's the lesson. That's the legacy. Not the movies, the humanity. Should I publish this? Shannon asks her mother. I don't know, Linda says honestly. Part of me thinks the world needs to read it. Needs to know that even legends are human. That strength includes vulnerability. That being scared is okay. But another part of me thinks your father kept it private for a reason. That some truths are meant to stay small, personal, sacred. What would Dad want? Linda thinks for a long time. I think he'd want whatever helps the most people. If publishing it helps people feel less alone in their fear, publish it. If keeping it private honors his struggle, keep it private. There's no wrong answer, just different kinds of right. Shannon decides to wait. Not ready yet. Maybe someday. Maybe never. The letter stays in the safe. A secret. A treasure. A time bomb of truth waiting for the right moment. COVID pandemic. The world is scared. Isolated. Struggling. Shannon thinks about the letter. About her father's words. About vulnerability. About admitting fear. About being human in a world that demands invincibility. She makes a decision. Publishes excerpts. Not the whole letter. Just pieces. The parts about fear. About doubt. About being human. About trying anyway. The response is overwhelming. Millions of people read it, relate to it, feel seen by it. Bruce Lee, the legend, admitting he was scared, admitting he doubted, admitting he felt like a fraud sometimes. It doesn't diminish him. It makes him more real, more relatable, more human, more inspiring. Because if Bruce Lee felt fear and kept going, maybe I can too. If Bruce Lee doubted himself and achieved anyway, maybe my doubts don't disqualify me. If Bruce Lee felt like he didn't belong and created his own belonging, maybe I can create mine. The full letter stays private. Shannon keeps that promise. Some truths belong to family. Some words are meant for small circles. Some confessions don't need mass distribution to matter. But the parts she shared change lives. Change perspectives, change how people think about strength and vulnerability and heroism. Well, Bruce Lee wrote a letter he never sent. Died with it in his pocket. It stayed hidden for 50 years. When pieces finally emerged, they proved something Bruce always taught, but the world struggled to accept. Real strength isn't hiding your fear, it's admitting it and acting anyway. The letter Bruce Lee never sent became the most important thing he ever wrote. Not because it was perfect, because it was true. Not because it was strong, because it was vulnerable. Not because it was legendary, because it was human. And in the end, that's what people needed most. Not another legend, another human. Struggling, trying, succeeding and failing and trying again, just like them. Just like all of us. The letter exists, in a safe, in Shannon's possession. Maybe someday she'll publish the rest. Maybe she won't. Maybe it doesn't matter. Because the lesson isn't in the words, it's in the act. Bruce Lee, the most famous martial artist in history, sat down 2 days before he died and admitted he was scared, admitted he was human, admitted the legend was exhausting, and then he kept being the legend anyway. Not because the fear went away, because the purpose was bigger than the fear. That's the letter, that's the message, that's the truth Bruce Lee carried in his pocket to his grave. You can be scared and still be strong. You can doubt and still achieve. You can feel like a fraud and still be genuine. The letter he never sent taught more than anything he ever published, because it was real, raw, unfiltered, human, and humanity, not invincibility, is what the world needed to learn. Bruce Lee knew that, even if he never sent the letter. He knew.